Hey, it's Vaz here from Aussie RC Playground and welcome to my review of the HPI Jumpshot MT Flux V2. Now this is a 1/10 scale two-wheel drive monster truck that comes equipped with a 3655 4000 kV brushless motor paired up to an 80 amp ESC. Up the front we have a 6.5 kilo steering servo, and the truck comes equipped with a twin vertical plate chassis that allows the battery to be loaded in from underneath. And rounding off this truck we have 4 plastic shocks with threaded bodies to allow for easy adjustment of your springs. For the electrics, I give this one a 4 out of 5, and it's pretty easy to see why. I mean, the truck comes with a very powerful brushless system. On 2S, it's more than enough for most people to handle, given that this is a two-wheel drive monster truck, and on 3S, it's absolutely ballistic. Very difficult to control, even to do speed runs with. So I really have no complaints with the power system of this truck. My only criticisms are really the radio and maybe the servo. We'll start with the radio. The radio is actually very well equipped and feels fantastic in the hand. It's a very true and tried design from HPI. They've had this radio now for quite a number of years. And I guess that's really my only criticism, is that it's getting a bit old. You know, it's looking a bit tired. It's something that we've seen before. It would be nice to just have this radio in a new casing, something fresh, something more modern, something that says, hey, we're making some changes here. That's really the only criticism. It's more aesthetics than anything else. I have no issues with the functionality of the radio, the features that it has. Everything about it is fantastic. I want to keep everything the same, just a new look. That's really the only criticism I have. Now the other thing is my steering servo. It did fail on me on my, I think, 3rd or 4th run that I was maybe using this truck. The steering servo just basically stopped working. Now at the time I was using a gyro with the truck, and I don't know if the gyro influenced that premature failure or if the servos is just really not that good. So I can't really prove that it's a genuine servo failure, because I was using something with the truck that it wasn't really, that it didn't come with a standard. So I guess, you know, 1 point, maybe half for the servo, half for the radio. That's really my only criticism here on the electrics. Aside from that, there's real no major complaints or deal breakers with this category. Now for the drivetrain, and given that this is a two-wheel drive monster truck, there's really not a lot of moving parts here. You have a couple of drive shafts in the back, you have a gear reduction transmission, and you have a spur gear and pinion. So there's not a lot that can go wrong. However, I did have some things go wrong, and that was the spur gear. Being that it's not only plastic, which is pretty common in these sort of vehicles, but it's a 48 pitch spur gear, and for that I gave this one a 3 out of 5. Now you might think that this is a little bit harsh on something that's fairly cheap to replace and easy to replace as well, but here's the thing, it happens more than once, and it's happened to a lot of people out there that own these vehicles, and I don't think that a 48 pitch spur gear is really suited for a truck that has this much power, especially being off-road. On the on-road terrain, it's a little bit different. The grounds are a bit cleaner, you're not doing any sort of major jumps. The car is usually pretty planted on the road, so you have constant pressure on those teeth and you're less likely to strip out spur gears. Not saying that it doesn't happen, it does happen, but it's just less likely to happen. On an off-road vehicle like this, when you have big tires, you got big power, you know, you land a jump, all it takes is just a little bit too much throttle when you do land a jump. You know, you might be trying to correct the truck. Given again, it's only two-wheel drive, you only have power to the rear, so it's kind of hard to control the truck in the air. This needs something a little bit more durable. And I think maybe going to like a 32 pitch would be a better option for HPI. Now, again, you still might be thinking that this is a little bit harsh, but this is a detrimental part or failure that basically renders the truck useless when it does happen. It's not something that you can pop back in. It's not something that happens after so many runs. It's likely to happen on the first run or second run that you have this truck, and you're pretty much done for the day. You can't, you know, unless you have spare spur gears in the toolbox. It's a really crucial part of this drivetrain, and that's really why I've been a little bit harsh with it here and only given it a 3 out of 5. I think if they correct that, you're less likely to have issues with the drivetrain going forward. For handling, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 as well. And the main reason for that is really the stock tyres that the truck comes with. Obviously not these ones that you see here on the bench. The stock tyres may actually be familiar to some of you HPI fans out there who may recognize the tread pattern being used in some of the previous HPI trucks of the past. Now, that tread pattern may be a bit of a signature sort of look to HPI, but unfortunately it doesn't offer a very good grip, especially considering the rubber compound that they've selected. I struggled for grip with those tyres just running the truck on 2S. Where I did actually find a little bit of grip was mainly just on short grass, but everywhere else I was really struggling to keep this truck in a straight line, and that was just running on 2-cell. You know, if you try to drive this truck on 3-cell with the stock tyres, you're going to have a very frustrating experience, unfortunately. And I really hope that going forward HPI actually pick a different tread pattern, perhaps even a different rubber compound that strikes a better balance between getting grip in a variety of surfaces as well as having some longevity out of those tyres as well. Because the rest of the truck is actually set up pretty well. It jumps pretty well, it's pretty well balanced, it's well dampened, well sprung. They've kind of, you know, done a pretty good job with the shocks and everything else. It's just the tyres that really let it down. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that, you know, is a big part of having a good driving experience and having a good handling vehicle is having some good rubber. So you can actually put the really good power that this truck has that we talked about earlier, putting that power to the ground and being able to drive the truck as it should be driven. So for durability, I've given this one a 4 out of 5. And of course, I've already taken a couple of points off for the spur gear, which is a big issue. But most of the problems that I had with this truck were just things popping out of place and little annoyances like that. I did have one other breakage, which we'll talk about in a sec. But probably the most common thing that happens with this truck that's really annoying for a lot of users out there are the steering links popping off the little ball studs. Now, that's a little bit of an issue. Once they pop off a couple of times, the plastic stretches, and every time you take a bit of a tumble, the link comes off. And that's really annoying and something that a lot of people have had to modify to obviously captured rod ends so that they don't pop off as often or at all. And that's exactly what I've done. I couldn't get them to be captured where the servo horn is. There's just not enough room in there for me to actually put a bolt through. But on the steering knuckles, I was actually able to do that. And I've driven the truck now a few times and I haven't had any issues with the ball links popping off. So that's something that obviously can be fixed. But again, it requires some kind of modification. And it's really annoying. It's not really a breakage. It's just a failure purely based on design that I think HPI can quite easily and very cheaply fix that problem by putting captured rod ends on there. Now, I did have one breakage because I was jumping this truck and I was actually doing some pretty big jumps. The battery door that's underneath has a little stud that kind of sticks out where the pin goes through and holds the battery door closed. Well, with all the jumping and everything, the battery obviously put some pressure on the door and broke that stud that comes off holding the pin. And then of course I couldn't close the door anymore. You know, I could close it, but I couldn't hold it shut. So I had to kind of modify it. Actually, one of the guys at work helped me modify it and fixed it for me, which is great. And now that problem is resolved. So this is again another design thing that HPI can actually do to rectify that. It is a little bit tricky to kind of put the body pin on the battery door, given how much room you've actually got there as well. So that's a little bit annoying, and I really hope that they can come up with a better solution in the future, because I think it might just take a couple of little mods and they might fix that. Maybe a twist tab, or maybe put a rod through it like you know, the old Armour 2-wheel drive cars used to have, and then the pin actually goes on the side, which is nice and easy to access. So maybe there's something like that they can do, but at the moment it's a little bit annoying to put that battery door on and off. Aside from that, the twin vertical plate chassis has held up perfectly fine. Didn't break any arms or anything like that. Body post stayed intact, and this thing has obviously taken a couple of hits here and there. Body's actually held up pretty well. A few scuffs here and there, but no breakages to report. I think overall it's done pretty well. Minus those couple of little annoyances, but these are just cheap fixes. It's not something that's detrimental to the car, hence why I didn't really penalize it too much. Now this category has had a bit of a name change. It used to be called maintenance, but now I'm actually calling it build, and I have Razor RC to thank for that. I've been watching a few of his videos and his reviews, and he actually has this as one of his named categories, and I think it actually makes more sense to name this as the build, because it's really talking about how the truck comes assembled. Do you have to adjust anything? Do you have to fix anything? Do you have to modify anything to make the truck usable? Overall, it's not too bad. Obviously, as we've talked about, you got to change tires in order to be able to drive it. And the other thing that I've actually modified on the truck, which you can obviously see, is I've put a front bumper on here, which the truck does not come with, and there's also a wheelie bar. So there's a little bit of money that you need to spend to get this thing to be not only well protected, but to actually handle better and be able to be driven. And that is why I've actually given this one a 2 out of 5. So the truck itself actually comes built pretty well. There's no screws backing out. I haven't had anything sort of go bad during my runs, other than, you know, links popping out and things like that. But as far as the build quality of the truck, it's that tried and true HPI build quality. The problem is more to do with the design of the truck itself. And there are a number of things here that we need to talk about. Number one, of course, there is no real big front bumper. The body hangs over the entire front end of the truck. And every time you do something, you come down a bit heavy on the nose, the body is the one that takes the brunt of the impact. There's a tiny little lip bumper that comes on the front of the truck, which really does nothing. And this could really benefit from a nice bumper that sticks out like this one here. For those of you who might be curious, this is the front bumper of the Jumpshot SC. Now I've modified it underneath, and I've just kind of bolted it on underneath the truck, and it works and it fits and it protects the truck exactly as it should. But of course I would like to see HPI actually manufacture one that actually, looks like it belongs here and is fitted up properly. Wheelie bar is also another thing that I've had to install on here. Again, there is no rear bumper on this truck, and with the power that it has, when you do get grip, this thing just wants to pop wheelies. And of course, again, the body at the back is the one that takes the brunt of the impact. But unlike the front, where it just flexes forward and it can sort of recover, here it grabs from underneath, and this is how you can tear the rear of the body open, and that's really not a good design. So I think a little rear bumper here would be really beneficial to this truck, as well as maybe an integrated wheelie bar. I mean, having this wheelie bar that you bolt onto the rear is okay, but I think having a nice little bumper to finish off the truck at the rear would be a better option. Now, the third and final thing here to do with the build quality of this is the battery door itself. On all three of the Jumpshot trucks that exist in the series, so you have the Jumpshot MT, there is an ST, which is a stadium truck, and then there's an SC, which is the short course truck, which is where I got the bumper from. Now, both of those other vehicles have slightly longer chassis, and it allows for the battery door to swing open 90 degrees or more for you to be able to put your battery in. Unfortunately, because this truck has the shortest of the three chassis, the way that the battery door is designed, it's basically just a cut and paste from the other trucks, and there is a lip on the back here that stops the battery door from opening all the way. So you kind of have like a 45, maybe 50 degree angle max that you can open this door. So when you flip the truck upside down and you're trying to fit your battery in, you have to hold the door open so that it's not constantly closing on you. So they need to redesign this somehow, come up with a different solution for this battery door, because it's really annoying to swap batteries on this. You're constantly fighting with the battery door to try and not, get your fingers caught, and you want to put your battery in, feed your wires through, all this sort of thing. And it's just really annoying, and it needs to be better designed, I think. So I do like the way that the truck is put together. It just needs a little bit of tweaking in regards to the design to make it just that little bit better. And now for everybody's favorite category, part support. Now, of course, the scoring here is going to vary depending on where you are in the world. In some places, you may have really strong part support for HPI. In other places, you probably have a better luck playing the lottery. So I totally understand that the scoring that I give is probably going to differ from the scoring that you would have given. For me, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now, I want to try and justify this and explain why I've given it a 3 out of 5, because to be honest, I was actually going to give it more like a 2 out of 5. But I know that behind the scenes, there is a lot of work being done to make sure that HPI have a strong parts inventory here in the country. I've seen it happen. I've seen those parts inventory grow over the last couple of months. and I can only hope that they continue to grow and they get a lot better, because there are still some bits and pieces that we need to wait a little while for, but as time goes on, I can see all of these parts coming through. So I really hope that HPI continue to push forward and bring as many parts into this country as they possibly can, so that we don't have too much downtime when something like a spur gear fails or something like that. So let's see what happens. Maybe the scores will improve in future HPI products that I review in the future, or maybe the score will go down. We'll see. Now, unfortunately, the Jumpshot is going to take another hit in the scoring here, and I'm only going to give this one a 2 out of 5. Now, this might sound a little bit harsh, but you got to understand that here in this country, this truck retails for $490. And that's a little bit high for something that you have to put a bit of work into and even spend some money on, such as getting better tires, for example. So when you add all those costs up, and all the modifications that you need to do on this truck, such as the steering links, for example, or perhaps you want to put a wheelie bar on it, all of a sudden you're at the same price as, say, a Team Magic E5 HX, which is a 4-wheel drive brushless monster truck with the wheelie bar already included, comes with LED lights, and it's strong as all hell, and can go pretty quick as well. So for something like that, it's kind of hard to really say that this offers good value. Now, there is one positive aspect here, and that is that there's not a lot of two-wheel drive monster trucks out there on the market today. The two-wheel drive market's pretty much dried up a little bit. You know, there used to be the Stampede, Armour used to have the two-wheel drive vehicles, like the Granite and so forth, but they're all pretty much dried up. So the Stampede two-wheel drive is really not available in this country at the moment, unless you buy something second-hand. I don't know what's happened to that truck, but it's not available for sale as far as I know. Of course, Armour discontinued their two-wheel drive line. So unless you go for something off-brand, maybe like a HSP or some other brand that I'm unfamiliar with, if you want a two-wheel drive monster truck, unfortunately, you're going to have to get something like this. This is what's available. I don't know of too many others. I know Tinko Rally have got some two-wheel drive stuff, so maybe they would be a little bit better. But again, that's a brand that's not, especially with those particular vehicles, it's not super supported here in the country. So you're going to struggle to find, those particular vehicles at your local hobby shop. So this is kind of standing alone. There's not a lot of competition for this particular monster truck. So yes, it's probably not the best value out there when you compare it to something like a Team Magic. And of course, you're not too far away as well from something like a Granite from Armour, which I think is now, it's jumped up to about $600. So by the time you get a new set of tires, maybe you get a wheelie bar, upgrade your steering links and so forth, modify the battery tray, get yourself a couple of spur gears just in case they strip out on you, you're going to be really hovering around that area, and you're going to have something that's going to be a lot more drivable, equally as tough, if not more so. So, where does this sit? So I think for value, it's kind of hard to really justify this truck. It is a lot of fun. I've wanted a two-wheel drive monster truck for the longest time. I absolutely loved my brushed Stampede two-wheel drive that I had back in the day. And maybe that's where you get a little bit more value with these trucks if you get the brushed version. I think it offers something nice there. But as a brushless vehicle, I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments what you think of having something like this that you're going to struggle for grip on. You don't have a front bumper or a rear bumper or a rear wheelie bar. Would you pay $490 Australian for something like this? So the total score for this is a 21 out of a potential 35, which equates to about 60%. And that's really just kind of meh. The truck is a great looking truck. It has an unbelievable brushless system in it. It's got a really well equipped radio. It's from a brand that we know is going to be good, which is HPI, but unfortunately it does have a few shortcomings, and it's really up to you, the individual, to decide whether you want a two-wheel drive monster truck like this, where you have to tinker with it a little bit, you have to invest a little bit of coin into it as well, and you're going to have a really nice solid experience, something that's different from the everyday four-wheel drive monster truck market that exists out there. If that's something that you want, then obviously you can't go wrong with this if you're prepared to do those things. But if you want to be able to get this, take it out of the box, go outside and have a good time with it, unfortunately that's just not how it's going to be. I think HPI just needs to tweak a couple of things here, and the scoring could be very different, and of course we can't really do all those tweaks and have the price jump up another $50, because then it becomes even more unjustifiable when you compare it to some of the other four-wheel drive vehicles on the market today. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave this review. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button before you go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, check out the video description down below. I'll have links in there to all the previous videos that I've done on this monster truck, as well as links to my social media pages if you want to follow me on those. Thank you again for watching, and I'll speak to you all next time.